you from across the way, and I think about you almost every day. Now I think that I must have a crush on you. I hope that you feel it too. Paradise waiting for, so take my hand. You and me in La La
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please, we're about to go live in 2 minutes. Would appreciate if you take your seats as we're about to go live. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please do ensure your phones are on silent or on vibrate. Thank you. Okay, just some housekeeping rules. Number one is obviously please keep your phones on silent. To the members on the board on the high table, members of the board on the high table will ensure that your microphone, you need to push the button to ensure that you speak. So please just push it. It's going to turn red. So just to make sure that you have it. So you can adjust it now to your level so that you're comfortable with that. So when it's time to speak, please don't forget to push the red button. Ushers, please ensure that anyone that comes in henceforth is directed straight to their seats and their phones are on silent. To the gentlemen of the press, please do minimize movements during the course of the event. Please find time as frequently as you can to get your images or your pictures, but would appreciate if you do most of the picture taking from the back. Once again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 96th Annual General Meeting of Unilever Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 9:55. We will go live with the event and kick off with the national anthem at exactly 10 a.m. Once again, please ensure your phones are on silent or on vibrate, and also ensure minimal movement between now and the commencement of the event. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 9:57. We will kick off the event with the national anthem at 10 a.m. This is a final roll call on all movement in the two halls. Gentlemen of the press, please be at the designated positions, ushers as well. For those just joining us, welcome once again, and please ensure that your phones are on silent or on vibrate. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please can we all rise for the national anthem?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Directors, the esteemed shareholders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am humbled to be here on the 96th Unilever AGM conference to address us on safety. As we all know, any form of emergency has the potential to cause harm to people and damage to properties. And it is equally more dangerous when people don't know what to do in an event of emergency. Therefore, I will quickly brief us on emergency and emergency response procedures of this hall. This location is known as the Learning Center. It is located at the left wing, ground floor of Unilever's head office, Oregon. Please note that the location has been duly assessed and be rest assured that your safety is guaranteed. From the corridor of the hall, the exit to the left leads to the conveniences, the main entrance, and at the extreme end, an emergency door, while the exit to the right leads to the second emergency door of the hall, all of which lead to the parking lot, the middle of which has been designated as the assembly point. In case of any emergency, for example, fire, we have the fire detection alert that will prompt people. Today, we do not plan to have a drill. So when you hear an alarm, please don't panic. Just know that it is real. You are required to walk smartly to the nearest emergency door closest to you to access the assembly point. You are required to remain at the assembly point till the site emergency responder has addressed you. In rare emergencies like choking while eating, it is advised to always get water before eating. Should you require the need to use the conveniences, they are located on the left turn of the corridor of the hall, the male convenience preceding the female convenience. It is also pertinent for me to remind us that COVID is not over. Therefore, we are all obligated to strictly adhere to all COVID-19 preventing guidelines, irrespective of being vaccinated. The precautionary tips have been proven to be the best way to prevent transmission. The use of nose mask, hand sanitizer, and social distancing are still paramount. In addition, the use of safety goggle is compulsory on Unilever sites. The medical team are fully on ground with a standby ambulance to attend to any medical need. Thank you, and I wish you a safe stay and fruitful deliberation. I will now hand over to the chairman.
Thank you very much for the safety briefing. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, the time is a little past 10 o'clock, but we started with safety briefing at 10. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 96th annual general meeting of our company. Before I go further, I think I'll call on one of us to say a short opening prayer. Mrs. Adetutu, Barrister Adetutu, sorry. Can you say a short prayer for us? The microphone to her, please. Oops.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rise up. Let's rise up for prayers. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this gathering. Accept our thanks in Jesus' name. We are committing this meeting into your hands. Father, Lord, take absolute preeminence in the name of Jesus. Do that which you alone can do in our midst today in the name of Jesus. Let all the glory be yours and all the blessings be ours in the name of Jesus. In Jesus' mighty name we've prayed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for the prayers. I've received confirmation from our registrar, Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions Limited, that we have a quorum as required by Article 54 of the company's Articles of Association. Can the registrar please read the proxy report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, and esteemed shareholders. We hereby confirm that 197 proxies and 11 shareholders representing 4,597,521,636 units of shares have been recorded as being present at this meeting. This represents 80.03% of the issued share capital of the company. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The meeting, having been duly convened and properly constituted, I hereby declare it open. I wish to inform you that this meeting is being held by proxy. That is as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the current restrictions imposed by the federal government on the number of persons at a public gathering of this nature. The maximum number being 50 persons. We sought and have received the approval of the Corporate Affairs Commission to hold this meeting by proxy. Accordingly, the meeting is being streamed live to enable shareholders, regulators, observers, and other stakeholders who are not able to join physically to follow the proceedings. Furthermore, I wish to inform you that safety and health measures have been put in place by our company for this meeting, as we've just been advised. In compliance with government directives, the number of persons physically present at this meeting is limited to a maximum of 50. Hand sanitizers and face masks have also been provided, made available at the venue of this meeting, and several other precautionary measures have been employed, including temperature checks before entry into the venue and requiring that attendees keep the recommended distance between each other. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 8 items of business before you today. You'll have the opportunity to move and second motions put to the meeting and to vote on each motion. There will also be ample opportunity for questions and comments. Please ensure that you raise your hand and are called before you speak. As we wish to have a full recording of this meeting, microphones connected to a tape recorder and amplifying equipment are in use so that everyone present should be able to hear. I would therefore request that those moving or seconding motions put to the meeting, making comments or asking questions, please step forward to the microphone, stand in the aisle closest to them, and speak clearly into the microphone. Before speaking, kindly commence by stating your name. I wish to appeal to each questioner to be brief with the comments and/or questions, so as to give others a chance also to ask questions. I would like to inform all members that the Registrar of Directors Holdings, is available for inspection during the meeting in compliance with Section 30, subsection 301, subsection 8 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. Before moving to the formal aspect of this meeting, I would like to introduce very briefly members of the Board of Directors. I am Nemeka Achebe Ubi of Onitsha. I'm a non-executive director and chairman of the board. I was appointed as chairman in July 2011. To my immediate left is Mr. Mitu Sumonu, CON, an independent non-executive director. He was appointed to the board in December 2015. Next to Mr. Sumonu is Mrs. Abiola Alabi, a non-executive director. She was appointed to the board in December 2015. Next to Mrs. Alabi is Mr. Felix Enwemado, an executive director. He was appointed to the board in October 2016. To my immediate right is Mrs. Abidemi Ademola, the company secretary. She was appointed as company secretary in July 2012. Next to Mrs. Ademola is Mr. Michael Ikwoki, an independent non-executive director. He was appointed to the board in February 2021. And it is my pleasure to welcome him to his first annual general meeting with the company. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the rest of our directors are joining the meeting virtually. I will now proceed to introduce them. Mr. Carl Cruz, you can see him on the screen there, is managing director. He was appointed as the MD in February 2020. Amuna Lawan Ali, OON, is an independent director, independent non-executive director. She was appointed to the board in December 2015. Mrs. Adeshola Shotande Peters is the finance director. She was appointed to the board in January 2015. Mr. Chika Nwobi is a non-executive director. He was appointed to the board in January 2019. Mr. Jaime Aguilera is a non-executive director. Mr. Aguilera is also the president for Unilever Africa. He was appointed to the board in January 2021. It's also my pleasure to welcome Mr. Aguilera to his first annual general meeting with the company. Profiles of each of the directors are contained in the company's annual report. I would like to introduce the representatives of our auditors, KPMG Professional Services, Mrs. Temitope Onitiri, partner. Our registrars, Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions Limited, Ms. Anne Mutua and Mr. Tubenna Madubeze. NGS Regulations Limited, formerly Nigerian Stock Exchange, Ms. Lillian Dako. The Securities and Exchange Commission, Mrs. Amina Tanko, who is joining us virtually. She's on the screen there. The Corporate Affairs Commission had informed us that they would likely join this meeting virtually. Okay. I would now like to introduce members of the Audit Committee. The shareholders' representatives on the Audit Committee are Mr. David Oguntoye, who is the chairman, Alhaji Wahab Ajani, and Mr. Kolawole Durojaye. The board members who are also members of the Audit Committee are Mrs. Abiola Alabi, already introduced, and Mr. Chika Nwobi, who is joining virtually. I would also like to introduce the persons who have been appointed as proxies and who are attending this meeting in person for themselves and as proxies for shareholders who could not attend physically. They are Sir Sonny Nwosu, represented by Mr. Robert Ibekwe, Mr. Boniface Okezie, is on his way, I believe. Mr. Matthew Akinlade, represented by Mazi Samuel Mpamugo. Mr. Benga Idowu must be on his way. Mrs. Adebisi Bakare, represented by Mrs. Abosade Piton. Thank you. Mr. Debayo Adeleke. Okay, thank you. Mr. Nona Awo. You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Bright Mwabu Owu. Thank you. Mr. Patrick Ajidwa. Mrs. Samiat Adebanke Odunuga. And Ms. Ganiat Adetutu Sianbola. Thank you. Mr. Michu Simonu, Mr. Michael Ikboki, Mr. Felix Enwemado, and myself are also nominated proxies for this meeting. Also in attendance, physically or virtually, are members of the Unilever Nigeria leadership team and Unilever managers. I will now call on the company secretary to read the notice of the meeting, which is on pages 8 to 10 of the annual report and financial statements.
Notice of annual general meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 96th annual general meeting of Unilever Nigeria PLC will be held at the Unilever Nigeria PLC head office, 1 Billings Way, Oregon, Ikeja, Lagos, on Thursday, 6 May 2021 at 10 a.m. for the following purposes. Ordinary business. To lay before the members the report of the directors, the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020, together with the report of the audit committee and the independent auditors thereon. To elect or re-elect directors, to elect Mr. Jaime Aguilera and Mr. Michael Ikboki being directors elected since the last annual general meeting. To re-elect the following directors retiring by rotation: Amona Lawan Ali, OON, Mr. Felix Ewemadu, Mrs. Adesola Sotande Peters. To disclose the remuneration of managers of Unilever Nigeria PLC. To authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the independent auditors. To elect members of the audit committee. Special business by ordinary resolution. To consider and, if thought fit, to pass the following as ordinary resolution: that the remuneration of the non-executive directors of Unilever Nigeria PLC for the year ending December 31st, 2021 be and is hereby fixed at 62 million naira only as directors' fees. In addition, sitting allowances will be paid as standard agreed rates for each meeting attended, and the chairman will be entitled to a vehicle allowance of 12 million gross per annum. 7, to consider and if thought fit, pass the following resolution as an ordinary resolution of the company. That pursuant to Rule 20.8 of the Rule Book of the Nigerian Stock Exchange 2015, Issuers Rule, a general mandate be and is hereby given authorizing the company during the 2021 financial year and up to the date of the next annual general meeting to procure goods and services and financing and enter into such incidental transactions necessary for its day-to-day operations from its related parties or interested persons on normal commercial terms consistent with the company's transfer pricing policy. All transactions falling under this category, which were earlier entered into in 2021, prior to the date of this meeting, are hereby ratified. 8, to consider and if thought fit, pass the following subjoined resolutions as ordinary resolutions of the company. That the proposed separation of the company's tea business, the tea business, and all assets attached to or deployed in connection with the tea business, as will be more particularly described in the relevant transaction documents, to a newly incorporated dedicated tea company in Nigeria, in the Unilever Group, the separation, on such terms and conditions as may be agreed by the board of directors of the company. The board is hereby approved, subject to obtaining relevant regulatory approvals. That the board is hereby authorized to execute all relevant documents, appoint such professional advisors, take all necessary steps, and to do such other acts or things as may be necessary, supplementary, consequential, or incidental to giving effect to, or supporting the separation, including obtaining the relevant regulatory approvals and complying with the directives of any regulatory authority. And 3, that all acts carried out by the board and management of the company, hitherto, in connection with the above, be and are hereby ratified. The notes speak to proxy, so list the proxies that have been appointed for the meeting, and then talks about nominations for the audit committee, unclaimed dividends, rights of securities holders to ask questions. So securities holders have rights to ask questions, not only at the meeting, but also in writing prior to the meeting. And such questions must be submitted by the company via the company secretary on or before Thursday, 29th April 2021. And we've received some questions. Electronic annual report. The electronic copy of the 2022 annual report is accessible on our website and also circulated by email to all shareholders who have provided their email addresses to the registrars. The reports are also dispatched to shareholders via their addresses in the shareholders' registers. Shareholders who are interested in receiving an electronic copy of the 2020 annual report by email should request via the registrar's email address in the notice. Profile of directors standing for election and re-election are contained in the annual report. The live stream of the annual general meeting. The link has been provided on the company's website and also dispatched to shareholders. Dated 25th March 2021 by order of the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Demola. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as it is the custom at our annual general meeting, I would like to give a brief overview of the company's activities in 2020 before we transact the ordinary business of the day. My statement is on pages 12 to 16 of the annual report and the financial statements booklet. I will now proceed to read the same unless you rather take it as read. We all agree? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Item number 1. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, Item number 1 on the agenda is to lay before the members the report of the directors, the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020, together with the reports of the audit committee and the independent auditors thereon. As copies have been circulated to you in accordance with the Companies and Allied Matters Act of 2020 and the Company's Articles of Association, I hereby lay before this meeting the report of the directors, the audited financial statements for the year ended 2020, and the reports of the audit committee and the independent auditors thereon. I will now call on Mrs. Temitope Onitiri, a partner of the firm of KPMG Professional Services, the independent auditors, to read the independent auditor's report, which is on pages 62 to 65 of the annual report and financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2020, earlier circulated to members. Ms. Onitiri, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, Board of Directors, distinguished shareholders, and other members here present. My name is Temitope Onitiri, your audit partner.
Microphone, please.
Okay. So with your permission and with the permission of the shareholders, I would like to ask if I can read the opinion, basis of opinion, and the key audit matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you. Independent Auditor's Report. To the shareholders of Unilever Nigeria PLC, report on the audit of the financial statements. Opinion. We have audited the financial statements of Unilever Nigeria PLC, the company, which comprise the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2020, the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, the statement of changes in equity, the statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes comprising significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the company as at 31st December 2020, and of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and in the manner required by the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2020, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act 2011. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the company in accordance with International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Independent Standards, ISBA Code, together with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of the financial statements in Nigeria. And we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with these requirements and the ISBA Code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the financial statements as a whole and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. We have determined the matters described below to be the key audit matters to be communicated in our report. Impairment of intercompany receivables. Refer to Summary of Significant Accounting Policies, Note 2.6, and Related Party Transactions, Note 28, on pages 77 and 122 respectively of these financial statements. The key audit matter. As at 31st December 2020, the company had amounts due from related parties totaling 6.4 billion. Over 95% of this amount is due from entities in a net current liability position as at year end. The recovery of this amount is dependent on the company's recovery plans and general business environment of the related parties. Hence, there is an indication of potential impairment of this balance. The significance of the amount and the extent of estimation and judgment involved in determining the impairment loss allowance required made the impairment of intercompany receivables an area of significant focus during the audit. How the matter was addressed in our audit. Our procedures included the following, amongst others: obtaining an understanding of the company's credit control process, as well as the authorization and approval of significant related party transactions, obtaining an understanding of the model applied for the loss rate calculation, and inquiring of the director plans for recovery of these receivables, evaluating the company's impairment assessment of the receivables from the related parties at year end, and testing the appropriateness and adequacy of any impairment losses recognized in this respect. Consulting with our financial risk management specialist to assist in evaluating the appropriateness of the model and loss rate used, and comparing with the information available from the general business environment. Challenging management's model and the assumptions made in estimating the loss rate based on our knowledge of the company's business, the liquidity positions of the related parties as at year end, cash flow forecast, and payment pattern loss rates. Finally, evaluating the adequacy of the financial statement disclosures, including disclosures of key assumptions and judgment in line with the relevant IFRS standards. This audit report has been signed by me, Temitope Onitiri, on behalf of KPMG Professional Services. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onitiri. I will now call on Mr. David Oguntoye, the chairman of the Audit Committee, to read the report of the Audit Committee to the members of Unilever Nigeria PLC, which is on page 60 of the annual report and financial statements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sir. Good morning, members of the board, management, erudite shareholders. Good morning once again. The report of the Audit Committee to members of Unilever Nigeria PLC can be found on page 60 of the financial report and accounts. In accordance with the provisions of section 404, subsection 4 and 7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the members of the Statutory Audit Committee of Unilever Nigeria PLC hereby reports as follows. We have exercised our statutory functions under section 404, subsection 7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, and we acknowledge the cooperation of management and staff in the conduct of these responsibilities. We confirm that, 1, the accounting and reporting policies of the company are consistent with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. 2, the internal audit programs are extensive and provide a satisfactory evaluation of the efficiency of the internal control systems. 3, we have considered the independent auditor's post-audit report in respect of year ended 31st December 2020 and management responses thereon, and are satisfied thereto. Members of the audit committees, if present here, should please rise up and take a bow as I call your name. 1. My humble self, Mr. David Oguntoye, as the chairman and shareholders representative. 2. Halaji Wahab A. Ajani, shareholders representative. Mr. Kola Wole Durojaye, also a shareholders representative. Mrs. Abiola Alabi, non-executive director. Amuna Lawan Ali, non-executive director, is joining us online. Mr. Chika Nwobi, also a non-executive director. Amuna Lawan Ali resigned with effect from 25th of February 2021. And this report is dated 23rd March 2021 and signed by my humble self, the chairman. Thank you.
I shall be pleased to answer questions and take comments which you may have on the chairman's statement earlier presented and on the 2020 annual reports and financial statements before we proceed to the next item of business. In making your comments and or asking your questions on the reports and financial statements, it would help to ensure that we give the right answers. It will help to ensure that we give the right answers if you would refer to the page of the report and financial statements to which your comments and or questions relate. Members should please be brief in their comments and questions to afford opportunity to other shareholders to have their say. Each questioner should please give his or her full name over the microphone and state his or her questions slowly. Shareholders who are following in the proceedings online can also write their questions in the comments section of the online platform through which they are following the meeting. We will, as time permits, read out and answer some of those questions. Are there any comments and or questions, please? Start from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, regulatory authorities here present, my fellow shareholders. My name is Barrister Adetutu Shiyonbola. I have some observations. The first one is from page 6. When I married that page 6, that talks about list of directors with pages 18 to 25 that has the beautiful pictures and the profiles of our board of directors. I observed that we have 3 ladies as directors out of 10, which is all right on gender balancing. And I have an advice to the ladies in the board. I know your appointments were based on merit. Looking through your profile, I know your appointments were based on merit. Please keep the flag flying. God is on your side. On pages 26, 27, 32, and 34, under leadership team, I observed that we have 6 ladies in the management team out of 16, which is good as well. And I have an advice for the ladies in the management team as well. I'm sure you all rose to those. I'm sure you all rose to these positions through hard work. Please keep the flag flying. Sky is your starting point. Then when I marry page 7 on results at a glance with page 28 that has just results as the heading, I observed that under the revenue, revenue grew from 60.5 billion naira to almost 62 billion naira in the year under review. Under operating loss, I observed that operating loss reduced from negative 11.8 billion naira to negative 6 billion naira in the year under review. Then loss before taxation. I observed that loss before taxation reduced from negative 10 billion naira to negative 4.7 billion naira in the year under review. Loss after taxation reduced from negative 7.4 billion naira to negative 3.97 billion naira in the year under review. Other comprehensive income increased from negative 224 million naira to negative 493 million naira in the year under review. I observed that all the indices are in negative. And I want to implore the board and the management team to return our company back to profits. We are tired of losses. That will not be our portion again in Jesus' name. Then, when I marry page 14, when I marry page 14, under the heading of board members, from chairman's statements, with page 29, board composition, I observed that Mr. Atedo Peter Side resigned from the board on the 31st of March in the year 2020. Well, I want to seize this opportunity to thank him for his contribution to the board. And I also observed that Mr. Carl Cruz, the MD, was appointed on the 1st of February in the year 2020. And Mr. Aime Aguilera was appointed on the 1st of January in the year 2021. And Mr. Michael Ipoki was appointed on the 1st of February 2021. I want to seize this opportunity to welcome them to our board and to wish them a fruitful tenure in office. On page 34 and 35, under the attendance at the board meetings and board committee meetings, I noticed that those attendance are excellent. Keep it up. On page 36, under directors' shareholding, I observed that only the chairman is a shareholder in our company with a direct holding out of 10 directors. The remaining 9 directors not even have any share attached to their names, even indirectly. Why? I want to know why. On pages 42 and 43, under corporate social responsibility, looking through the breakdown, I saw an item labeled others, which we donated 39.2 million naira to in the year 2019, and also donated 26 million naira to in the year under review. Who are the others? Next time we need full disclosure. On pages 43 and 47, under key distributors and their regions, I observe that they have geographical spread. But my concern is on the way the regions is being classified. I noticed that there are some regions that's classified as middle belt. I thought they should be classified as North Central because we don't use middle belt now in Nigeria. Then there are some regions that were classified as South Central. I believe they should be classified as South-South. And I have another observation in that column too. Is there any difference between the one classified as East and Southeast? Because I saw some classified as East and some Southeast. I want to know if there is a difference. Then on pages 87 and 88, expenses by nature. Brand and marketing went up from 3.13 billion naira to 3.13 billion naira to 3.19 billion naira in the year under review. Royalties and service fees went up from 1.9 billion naira to 1.51 billion naira in the year under review. I'm rounding up. Auditors' remuneration went up from 37 million naira to 40.4 million naira in the year under review. Utilities went up astronomically from 480 million naira to 994 million naira in the year under review. Repairs and maintenance costs tripled, went up astronomically from 688 million naira to 1.9 billion naira in the year under review. Donations. My observation on that donation is that the figure stated on the donation is 242 million naira, 709,000 naira in the year under review. But does that, I noticed that it doesn't tally, that figure does not tally with the total figure I have on page 43 that talks about donations too. That one reads 243 million naira, 709,000 naira. You should know how to at least why. I just want to know why the figure does not tally. Then trainings and meals went up from 323 million naira. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nona, we'll take Mr. Ajido and then come to you. Thank you very much. He raised his hand first.
The chairman of the board of Unilever PLC, members of the board of directors, my fellow shareholders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Ajudua. Mr. Chairman, as demanded by custom, I wish to appreciate your coming to this meeting. For us, from our area, we always give reference to our traditional leader. So I continue to pray for your good health and for long life, and for God to continue to spare you alive to serve your people and humanity. Mr. Chairman, I also want to thank God for most of us who are alive today, because with the recent virus that we have gone through, I think it's a cause for us to rejoice that we are not a candidate of death for that virus. And it's my prayer that we will remain so, and God will continue to protect us and our families. Mr. Chairman, I want to commend Unilever, despite this result, for its resilience in navigating the impact of COVID, which significantly causes so much disruption to our operating environment. First and foremost, Mr. Chairman, is on the notice of meeting on page 8. Mr. Chairman, on that page, I would like you to explain more the reason for the special resolution, section 8, subsection 1, on tea business separation, much of which we also see on page 126, on the desire to separate the tea business into a separate legal entity. What is the financial impact? That is my question, of the separation. The reason behind it, and what is the financial impact? Mr. Chairman, I would have been very hopeful to see our MD, at least an executive director in this meeting. But unfortunately, I understand he's joining by visual, which technology allows. But I would like to draw his attention to the need for him to have a statement, the CEO or the MD statement in the annual report. I only see that of the chairman, but it's very important that he give us up to date on operational wise of the company attached to your own statements. Mr. Chairman, I would like to commend the company for the COVID intervention fund on page 43, where they have spent over 200 million. It is very commendable, and I believe that it's a show of a responsible organization with a good management team and, of course, a very good and loyal customers. Mr. Chairman, when I take you to the account, which is on page 66 to 68, the pre-tax loss was caused by some operating expenses, some of which we can see in the impairment, and equally, sir, we can see in also the repairs and maintenance, and an increase in net expenses on page 91 to the sum of 29 million, with a slightly lowered income realized. Sales is still well below historical average. This shows that Unilever is yet to fully regain its market share, despite growth in both the food products and home and personal care. Mr. Chairman, also, I would like to now we are addressing the issue of impairment. There was additional impairment which was recognized from the receivable from related parties. And that, Mr. Chairman, we can see on the external auditor's report. And its expected repayment plan from these related parties was impacted by COVID-19 crisis. So my question to you, Mr. Chairman, is what are measures that are being put in place to ensure recovery of these related parties' balances? This can be seen on page 63 on the external auditor's report, which I've said, with a related amount of 6.4 billion, which is over 95% due for the financial year. So how are we intend to get back this money? Or how far have they repaid this money, sir? On page 87, expenses by nature. Mr. Chairman, you will see that part of my concern is the raw materials and consumables, which stood at from 47 to 36 billion. In the era of backward integration, what are we doing to improve the local sourcing of the raw material? Because if we look much inward, it reduces our cost. In line with this, Mr. Chairman, is also a commendation on page 91. I saw from the report that the finance income improved by 1.34 billion as a result of net exchange gain on translation of foreign currency denominated balances. That is very commendable, and I'll be looking forward to such improvements. But much has been said by the earlier speaker on the operating expenses. But my question there, which is on page 88, is there was a very high increase on repairs and maintenance. I pick that singular item. Mr. Chairman, it grew 3 times that value. 687 million, it went to 1.86 billion. That is very high. So I would like to hear from you, what is the reason behind that? Mr. Chairman, equally of concern to me is the trade payable, which is on page 68, 66, and 68. It is also on the high side, along with our loans and borrowing. Mr. Chairman, in concluding, I would like first to state, Mr. Chairman, for us as shareholders who are given privilege to represent the shareholders as a proxy, we have a very good relationship with the company secretary. I want to appreciate her, Mr. Chairman, because despite this COVID, she reached out to us to make sure that this annual report is sent to us, both the hardware and the software copy. And today, most of us could be able to look at that account before the meeting, unlike some meetings where you find difficult to get. So we appreciate you, Mrs. Ademola, and we ask that you keep it up. So, Mr. Chairman, in concluding, for the company Unilever to deliver on its growth trajectory, it has to embark on operational efficiency, 1, on cost optimization, 2, and to invent new products and brands, and in order to increase their market share across all key categories. When these 3 approaches are adopted, Mr. Chairman, I will assure you that we will be able to see a turnaround. Unilever should not be in the position that we are today, if not for 1, the impairment, if not also for 2, the issue of cost. But if we are able to tackle this, I believe that this loss of over 3.96 billion will be reversed. And today we'll be talking about dividend. Because you see on page 100, there was no dividend. So, Mr. Chairman, we are going empty. Unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, we are not beneficiary of the laggards of COVID as shareholders. But I believe that management will look inward to look at their shareholder with a way of also bringing more smile to them. And in doing that is for us to also take note of addressing unclaimed dividend. Thank God we are reducing it, but we need to reduce it more and more through a collaborative effort between the company, the shareholders, and the registrar. Because you see what government has done now was to use the other side to corner the unclaimed dividend. And in my talk with them at the National Assembly, I said it very clearly that government have no business. They have no business with unclaimed dividend. This money is for shareholder, corporate institutions. It is not for government. And government coming to take it by force will not accept. But company must do their best now to make sure that everybody comes forth to claim their money. In the light of this, I want to appreciate you, the chairman.
Thank you.
And I wish Unilever and the management and board a great success in the future.
Thank you.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wu.
Okay, if you want me to.
Just to comply with the regulations.
Okay.
Because tomorrow they show you in the newspaper saying this is.
Chairman, I would not have been bothered, but since Patrick spoke before me, and I know that Patrick is Abuja-based,
Yes.
I'll make sure I comply. For the records, my name's Nona Awo. Chairman, I will. Very difficult to know where to start when you run into the storm that we are in now. But I want to think that having been in this business for 98 years, what you have in the inside cover basically should be the one leading me as to how to go. He said, awaken to what really matters. So as much as possible, my emphasis will be on looking at what really matters in this account. Mr. Chairman, I know that, yes, we are 98 years old, and that we've also been listed for 44 years, which also means that there are not too many companies that have the experience and the pedigree that Unilever has. But let me take it from where the last speaker stopped. One of the things that makes a company blue chip is one of, I didn't say the only thing, is regular payment of dividend. For the second year now, no dividend will be coming the way of shareholders. I know that if I leave you to give an answer, you will say that is not correct. You will probably also tell me that the foreign partners also haven't earned dividend. But I'll wait to hear the answer that you give. Because, Mr. Chairman, I know that, as indicated in this report, directors have earned dividend, and you also be asking us to approve another dividend for you today. The staffers, yeah. I'm happy that we are not asking our employee at the end of the month not to also collect their paychecks. So they are also earning dividend. But, Mr. Chairman, I also want to bring it to your attention that of the 14 banks that we have in this annual account, which probably one of the other ways that some of us will have earned money, is that we are giving 5 banks that are not listed on an exchange. You haven't been on an exchange for 44 years to be our bankers. What type of money is it that they can source that the listed banks will not source? So going forward, one will be hoping that this board will make it a policy that any company that is not listed would not get business from us in terms of finance. Because we can't be working, we don't earn money, and then people that we cannot earn money from are the ones that earn money from the company. It doesn't speak well of. You probably don't have a policy before now, but going forward, that is going to be one of the policy. Mr. Chairman, I talked about directors earning, staff earning, banks, including those of them that are not listed earning. But you've also confirmed from what we have on page 88, 79 to 99, that even Unilever did earn dividend. And I'll be coming to that as I go along. Because if you look at this account, Mr. Chairman, you will find on page 122 what you have on page 122, 123, as well as page 90 and 91. Unilever, in terms of relationship with us, is collecting 2.5% of net sales. And the year under review, again, going by your record, they will have collected about 4.45 billion naira in a year that Nigerian and minority shareholders are not earning anything. Mr. Chairman, as if that is not sufficient, one of the things that also has happened, because looking at the results that you have posted, is the fact that the two legs of our businesses are also in red. And Mr. Chairman, I want to draw your attention to the fact that this again makes things difficult for me in understanding the direction that we are going. But Mr. Chairman, I am not also too certain that what I also find here, haven't heard about the related party, is the issue of the interest element. Interest still went up from 136 to 350 million. In a year that receivables and inventories are basically standing at 26.6 billion. And taking it further, Mr. Chairman, inventory write-down of almost 600 million. So that in 2 years, we have a situation where 1.3 billion has also gone in that area. So it's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge. So I will hope that as a board, you would make effort to address these issues. And also hoping that our foreign partners will also give a listening ear to some of the things that you'll also be putting on table. Because given what they have tried to do in the past, I am not sure that they understand or they are reading the room adequately. I'm not sure they are. Okay, but because, Mr. Chairman, if you take it further, like I said on page 87 and 120 to 121, this HPS is recording the second consecutive years, 2019-2020, being down. And not only that, this is the lowest that segment of our business is bringing on the table, the lowest in 7 years. So we're asking, where is the future? Where is the future? Mr. Chairman, I usually don't want to talk about the soft side of the account, but on page 34, Carl was dashed an attendance. He was said to have attended 6 meetings. But if you look at this score that he got, he only was called 5 times. I don't know how that happened, but I think it's something that's, I talked about, come again? I said page 34, attendance for board meetings. He was ticked 5 times, but when it comes to the score, he was given 6/6. I want to think so, that's why I said so. He was dashed. I didn't say he earned it, I said he was dashed. Mr. Chairman, I also want to draw your attention to some uncertainty in the presentation in this account. On page 77 and 79, unclaimed dividend with registrar, 412 million, yet they invested 3.4 billion. So I'm wondering, how can you say the money with them is? Because what is stated there is they invested, we didn't invest, so the money is still with the registrar. That is my understanding. Those of us who went to evening school, we have a way of having it difficult to understand mathematics. No, but I think there's something wrong in that. I said page 77, it said unclaimed dividend with the registrar, 412. But if you go to page 99, it said the registrar invested for us, and I'm wondering why the registrar should invest for us 3.4 billion. Is it that we can't we don't know how to invest? I think there is some, I want to think there were some errors there. Because if you go to page 100, it did say that unclaimed dividends that was returned, interestingly, with the fund is also separate. So it may be necessary that we capture the totals unclaimed dividend from, since the auditors are here, and then begin to do item by item as to how, where and how they are situated. But I didn't find anything with the money that was invested in the fund by one of the, there's nothing that was said about the interest. So I'm wondering, where is the interest situated? Because I do realize that in the year under review, again talking about the contribution of shareholders to the company, we dashed you 60 million for a company that is not paying shareholders. 60.1 million naira got statute back. So we dashed you, and yet you couldn't pay us any dividends. Yes, I know that some of the directors used to be around when we had ministry administrators, and they would say, tighten your belt. They were getting bitter, we are getting smaller. I'm sure that's the, but I don't think we should begin to run like those army men around the country. My biggest challenge, which I also want the chairman to take time to explain, or the management team, has to do with this tea business. Because with due respect, some of us were available 36 years ago when this thing was being done, and some of us opposed it. And our position then was that allow Unilever, that was a major shareholder, or the sole shareholder in the Lipton business, to grow its own business. But because they wanted to use our platform to push, that's why we bear the cost and they earn the money. Fortunately, some of them, their status have been dropped now, even in UK. The same thing they've done. 36 years after, oh, you want a reversal of the position. So if they're going to reverse, it's important that we understand in detail who will be owning the new company that this will be seeded, that this business will be seeded. It's important that we, what is the percentage that the minority shareholders through Unilever Nigeria, what is the percentage that we own in the new business? It's important we know. Because one of the things that this notice I've also talked about is part of our own assets will also be leaving us. So if we're going to lose assets, it's also important that we understand what the benefit that will come to us will be. Because looking at the report that you talked about, by the way, Mr. Chairman, I think there was also a typo. Because on one of the pages you said that you didn't have the full details of the implication of what separation. So if you don't know, why are you asking us to approve? You sit on the board with all the board papers, with all the information you don't know. Those of us who only see 100 and less than 200 pages, you want us to give approval to something we don't know. No, wait now, madam. Madam, this is the only business some of us have done all our adult life. So we also know. See what First Bank is doing with us. So we know, some of us know. Because in the same document, because you said at that time, in the same document you said almost 14% of our business in terms of revenue will be gone. And yet you said at that time. So if you know that in the top line, that size of, and by the way, 14% of what you are asking us to do is almost 9 billion naira. So we're going to be, in one soup, 9 billion naira will go out of what we can earn. So you should be able to say, okay, of this 9 billion, down the line, this is how much it's going to. So you don't tell us that you don't know. You don't tell us that you don't know. So now that you know that some of us don't know as well, please tell us that we know before we give you approval. Mr. Chairman, on a closing note, I want to ask that the auditors should and must also help us going forward. It is not sufficient for them to come in, year out, and tell us, based on inflation, based on cost of living. Interestingly, Chairman, let me also share this with you as an aside. We were going to bury somebody, and we got to the cemetery, and they told us that the cost of the land has gone up because of living costs. And then we then ask if the cost of bearing ground has gone up because of living costs. Then, so the same thing that the auditors will tell us year in, year out. Some of us just imagine if they were to own a burial ground, how much some of us will have been paying to have our loved ones to rest. Auditors live in Nigeria. And the earlier they begin to realize, because if they continue in this manner, we'll fix auditors' fee on the floor of the AGM. We can't fix it because the law permits us to do it. Don't let us come here next year and you are telling us there's an increase. You are increasing in a year where you had COVID and virtually over 70% of what you did in this audit was done non-physical. And you are pushing costs on us. But let me also share this with you. Because part of the problem, again talking about First Bank, when auditors think that the person that they should satisfy in terms of what they do is the management and board, there's a problem. You'll be asking us to approve director's fee on page 8. If you go to page 89, there's no alignment between director's fee that you'll be asking us to approve this year and what we paid in 2019 and 2020. There's no relationship. Page 89. On page 89, there's no one line item that says this is director's fee. So please, as young men and women, they should also help this country to get better. So again, they are not behaving like the military administrators, tighten your belts, and then they get smoother, and then we get rougher, as if they don't know how to pull what's called assault on our own roads. But Mr. Chairman, on a closing note, I know that this has been a discussion in the last 2 years. The reason I'm sure that you are asking us, or that you'll be asking us to approve Mike's appointment, I've met him a couple of times. One of the principal reasons will be that he did climb to the pinnacle of his profession. He became a CEO of a company. And I'm sure the same thing applies to our friend seated to your left. He probably didn't become CEO of Shell. Even if you're going to bring him, probably you won't have brought him this early. When are we going to have Nigerians given the opportunity after Rufus Giwa to run Unilever? I don't believe that we cannot find intelligent Nigerians who are ethically upright, who are academically sound, if we do a global search to run Unilever Nigeria. But much more annoyingly, Mr. Chairman, and which is something that we must also address, because unfortunately for the country now, everybody is looking in our direction. All that the international community wants to hear is bad news about us. We cannot continue to pay technical agreement fee, and yet we are paying the CEO a converted rate, and then they just collect their money, and even sometimes we pay tax on the money. It will not continue, and it must not continue. Some of us, we want to be friends with those of you who are Nigerians on the board, but nobody should come and treat me as a second-class citizen in the country of my fatherland. Nobody. So, Mr. Chairman, you are going to give us a timetable as to when the next Nigerian will become a CEO of this company. We've had them before. Omalayole was excellent, even if you thought the other persons didn't do too well. We must give Nigerians opportunity to also get to the peak of their career. Because if we don't, that will be the height of injustice. Your nail on my head will be a small child's play. But let me also tell you, Mr. Chairman, this position. I'm saying this because I know that our international friends are listening. No serious-minded Nigeria, and I repeat, no serious-minded Nigeria who is intellectually upright and smart will take Unilever offer if he has another offer from another company that has a Nigerian as CEO. Because what he's going to say is that in the course of my career, I can get to the top. But in the course of the career in Unilever, the best he probably will be an executive director. Mr. Chairman, I'm not surprised if you look around to tell you the level in which we've got into. You call some names in terms of proxy. what they did was to send, no, Chairman, just be patient. What they did was they sent junior officers to come and attend Unilever AGM. That is the level in which we have reached. And that level needs to be reversed if you want us to continue to be friends in this business. Mr. Chairman, it's on that note that we'll be hoping, haven't seen the first quarter results. I didn't want to, when things are bad, don't make it badder. Apologies to the English people. But it's important that we begin to tell us what you are going to do next to turn this ship around. You see what happened in Nile? Even at that, they were able to remove the ship. This ship must be moved around. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wu. Your comments are always highly appreciated and very useful. Any more? So we have the last speaker. One more speaker. If you can keep it brief.
Thank you very much.
Try and be brief, huh? Thank you
very much, sir, Chairman. I'm speaking on behalf of Sir Sonny Nwosu. Of course, a comment was made about his not being able to attend. Be that as it may, he sent his messages, his regards, to congratulate the board and management. The truth is that our report is not very fantastic. But having said that, the board is congratulated for their boldness to face shareholders. So I send his congratulations to you, sir. Then another thing is that we want to encourage the management to increase revenue because from the statement, we understand that our tea and beverage segment, I don't know whether it's going to be separated or it's going to be seeded. So if it is going to be seeded, what other new market avenue do we have to increase revenue? We have not received dividend like mentioned earlier for some time. So do we have new market opportunities if we seed our tea and beverage segments, if we seed it or separate it from our source of income? Also, of course, our stand has been sent to the management, to the boards, but we expect the management to increase revenue to enable, accommodate the level of income that will increase the top line. So I want to be brief, as the chairman has said, but definitely it's not out of place to mention that sending somebody to represent Sir Sonny Nwosu is not as if reducing the company or maybe sending a lower staff. So his messages are conveyed, sir. Igwe, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for being very brief. I should also let the shareholders know that Sonny Nwosu had sent a long list of questions also, which we've actually addressed in detail, and it's actually in writing. So we can make it available to shareholders, I believe. We'll make the response available to shareholders. And many of the other issues that you have raised, Nona, and Barrister Adichie had raised are all about the accounts. And I think more explanation will be given in writing. Thank you very much. One last speaker, briefly. If not on the accounts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Odunuga Samia Sadebanke. I thank the Board of Management. Okay, I congratulate the Board of Management for the courage of holding today's AGM. Despite the environment, changing operating environment in the year under review, our company recorded revenue of 61 billion. Our company needs a lot of strategy before it can come out of the growing loss. Although it's gradually improving in operation, the loss is resumed by 60% in respect of last year. But I still want the management and board to work very well in order to bring our company back to tangible profitability. I also join in welcoming Mr. Jamie and Mr. Michael to the board of our company. I want both of them to use their wealth of experience for the growth of our company. Page 31. I saw that our company sent all our directors for training, but I also want them to do the same for the audit committee member in order to enhance and to discharge their duties very well. Page 41. I give kudos to our company for all the awards received during the year under review. Lastly, some other, repair and maintenance. That one has been said by some others, the last speaker. But I want my board and management to improve in some area, cutting down some expenses in some area is a lot to do to bring back the glory of our company to tangible profit making. I hope if there is any blockage in all this situation, our company could come out resourceful revenue to let us more risk and put it together to sustain the gridlock of our company. May God help us and guide us. Amen. Thank you for the opportunity given.
Thank you very much for being brief also. I still see one hand coming up. Very brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. His Imperial Majesty, may you live long, sir. My name is Honorable Bright Nwabuogo, the National President of Aba Shareholders Association. Sir, with due respect, I want to ask you a question. Do we have whistleblowing policy in this company? If we do, what are the procedures to protect the identity of the whistleblower? In this issue I raise now, I want to ask the company, let them have two-way traffic in respect to the whistleblowing policy, internal and external whistleblowing policy. The first one, the internal, it will be inclusive, the staffs, directors, while the external whistleblowers should include customers and service providers. These enhance the company's profitability to checkmate all those potholes where people can mess up the company. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much for all the questions and the comments, which are very, very relevant, as always, and they help the management and the board in leading the company forward. Several questions have been asked, a lot of them on the financials and so on the tea business, expectedly, and a whole other points. I think I just make one or two comments. There was a request for a CEO statement on the business, but actually on page 28 up to page 47, you have the report of directors, which is effectively the CEO's report, except it's signed by the company secretary. So maybe next time it will be signed by the CEO, and it becomes the CEO's report. Tea business came up quite a few times, and we'll call on, at the appropriate time, we'll have Mr. Mutiu Simonu, who was the chairman of the board committee that evaluated the tea business on behalf of the shareholders to make sure that the board gave the proper recommendation to the shareholders. He'll give a brief presentation and say a few things on the process we went through and how we came to the recommendation. And then I think the managing director will say some words. I think we'll start off with him, and then the finance director will give more in-depth explanation on the accounts. Shall we call on Carl? Can we connect Carl? Yes. No. It doesn't transmit electronically. Don't worry about that. Carl.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Nice to hear your voice. Nice to see you face to face. You've been following the proceedings, and there've been several questions have been asked, mainly on the financials, but on other aspects. So why don't you give an overview, and then Adesola can give more details, and then eventually we'll call on Mutiu to talk about the tea business. We can also talk about the tea business and give an overview on that. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, good morning to everyone, especially to our esteemed shareholders. I think for the past year, the management team, together with the board of Unilever Nigeria, has worked hard to ensure that we bring the company back in the right space for growth and as well profit. The intention is to actually ensure that there is proper governance and as well operational discipline and rigor in the way we operate in the company, in the country, to ensure that we increase the relevance of our brands and our business in the minds of the consumers in Nigeria. A lot of work has been done, as I did say, across all facets of the operations, not only investing behind our brands, ensuring that we correct our stock holding in the trade, improve our planning process, and as well improve our cash collection. But more importantly, I think because of the COVID-19 impact of the business in 2020, the first priority of the organization was to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of everyone in the company. That was the first order of the day. That was top priority, to ensure that the company is able to provide the service required by the consumers in Nigeria. It's been a tough year, but definitely I think from the perspective of management, we have taken cues from the shareholder feedback and ensured that we are running the organization and the company in the best interest of everyone involved, most especially all of you, the shareholders. So with that, I think we are poised for now really gaining market share, really investing again continuously behind the brands, looking at category-wide spaces to ensure that we're able to course correct where the consumers are also shifting based on the new environment that we play in. We will continue to evolve as an organization. Of course, any business ongoing concern will have to evolve with the times, evolve with what the environment actually throws our way, and ensure that at the end of the day, our brands and the consumers remain at the heart of everything that we do. So it's been a tough year for all of us, but I think with the concerted effort of everyone involved in Unilever Nigeria, we are now in a better space. The fundamentals of the business are in the proper place to ensure that, again, we gain competitively and we go for market share increase, new markets, and as well improve profitability, so that hopefully sooner rather than later we'll be able to declare some dividends as well. So with that, I turn you over to our esteemed Financial Vice President, Adesola. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Carl. Adesola.
Thank you, Carl. I'll stand on existing protocols. So good morning, everybody. So I'll just go into the key. I think Carl has summarized what we're doing as management, but I'll go to the key specific financial areas that have been called out. And I think the first one has been around the royalties to our parent company. So the royalties is just mainly due to the 2%, 2.5% royalties that we normally have to pay the parent company for the technical support that we get from the parent company. So the increase is mainly due to the increase in turnover, and nothing has changed from what had been approved in previous AGMs. On the donations, yes, we've had a huge donation last year due to the COVID pandemic, where we had to extend some donation to the 2 states in which our factories operate in, Lagos State and Ogun State, by supporting the states on test kits, ventilators, and also upgrading some of their isolation centers to ensure that we were giving back to the community. We've also done some minor donations to also some IDP camps with some of our products as well, just to extend the whole COVID support to the nation. On the trade payables, I know it's significantly high, but that's a strategy that we deliberately had to take as an organization to hedge with the Forex situation. In 2019, we were buying Forex at an average of about 355 Naira to $1. In 2020, we've bought as high as 500 Naira to $1 because only 2% of what we submitted to CBN did we get from the CBN government. So we did not get enough FX to run the organization through the central bank and had to look for alternative sourcing through third-party suppliers and other bureau de change. And the payment method is for us to pay ahead to hedge and lock rates that were not competitive for us, but enough for us to ensure that we don't stop operations. So that's why the trade payables are much higher than what you would have seen in 2019. On repairs and maintenance, we do have a high cost there because we've had to upgrade our factory to be COVID compliant for us to be able to operate. So we've had to bring in some machineries and air freight them during the COVID period where there were no other means of bringing in things to the country. So we saw a huge cost on that. Utility, we all know that the utility tariff had doubled and then the diesel prices had also moved significantly. So those are the costs that are driving the high utility cost. I'm just trying to see. So I think I've covered the main, and then sorry, on the impairment, I think that's the biggest one. On the impairment, yes, we did say the impairment position was due to COVID. We do have impairment with our 2 sister companies, Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. And the issue why both payments had not come through were around documentations. They were finding it very difficult since we were working remotely to get documentations to be able to pay us. But I can tell the shareholders now that we do have a robust plan to ensure that all payments are reverted back to Nigeria before the end of the year. And so we shouldn't have any impairment issues going forward. So I'll leave it as that. As the chairman has said, other questions that had been sent to us in writing, we will take our time, respond to them in detail, and send it to the shareholders.
Thank you very much, Adesola. Could I also add that if there are questions that have been tabled here that have not been properly addressed, we'll take them up, if we can take them up in writing. I think there was a question about whistleblowing. We have a very robust whistleblowing policy in this company. I think focused on employees. I'm not sure about the external, all our shareholders and our stakeholders are also whistleblowers. I think we focus on protection and anonymity for our staff. And my understanding of whistleblowing is that you don't even have to put your name. Just say what is wrong, and the company will take it up. So, yes, we have a robust policy in place. I'll now call on Mr. Sumonu to give us some insight into the tea business with you.
Good morning, all. So I have the privilege of leading the ad hoc board committee on the tea separation. On that committee, I have Biola Alabi and Mike Ikpoki. And our committee met 3 times. And these are very long meetings. And what was our objective in the ad hoc committee is, first of all, to understand the rationale for that strategic move. And I feel very confident to inform all our shareholders. I think the rationale is understandable, the rationale is sound. The second objective we have is to make sure that the interest of the company and shareholders, and most importantly, our minority shareholders, that the interests have been properly protected. And to achieve that, we focus on the valuation that the group company has done using PwC in the UK. And I must say that there was a very rigorous exchange between PwC and the executive team. And when our ad hoc committee came in, we then decided that we needed to subject that valuation to yet another check. So we appointed an independent valuation here in Nigeria. And they did the valuation, came back to the ad hoc committee. The key thing that struck us in the ad hoc committee is the outcome from PwC UK and our own independent valuator. Their figures were so closely aligned. One was 11.24, another one was 11.2. Yeah, even though there is an upper range, which is not less than 10%. So that gave us comfort that our shareholders, and especially our minority shareholders, have not been shortchanged. So that was our second objective, which was well served. The third objective is, if we are removing this business, this tea business, from Unilever Nigeria, how do we make up for the loss in revenue? And we have, and good enough, the executives have been looking at a number of options, even including M&A, to bring in another business, related business that we could use to cover the gap. And that really was a very welcome view from the viewpoint of the ad hoc committee. And we have mandated the executive committee to come to the board at every board meeting to explain to us what they are doing to cover this gap, what is the roadmap, such that we can give it a much closer marking to ensure that gap is closed. But I can tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at the top line impact of removing, the tea business, it will look significant. But in terms of bottom line, the cost of sales associated with the tea business is quite high. So the executive is not too worried about the ability to cover the gap not just covering the gap, but covering it in a much more profitable version. So I feel that with all those three things that we were able to discover in the ad hoc committee, we went to the main board to say we can support this, we will continue to monitor it, we are not just going to leave it loose. And so the board then accepted our recommendation. And I think the last thing I want to mention is that apart from monitoring how to close the gap, we are also charging the executive to really keep an eye on how we are going to operationalize this separation, because there will be some impact on operations, and we want to make sure that is done in the most efficient manner, so that at the end of the day, the optimization is total. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michu, for this clear explanation. We'll now proceed to the resolutions. In the exercise of the powers conferred on me by virtue of Section 248, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, I hereby call for a poll on items 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8 on the agenda. Accordingly, voting for these resolutions will be done electronically, and each shareholder and proxy has been given a voting device, and the results will be displayed on the screen and on the live streaming of the meeting, so that those who are not present physically can view them. Kindly note that each resolution at this meeting requires a simple majority of the votes cast in order to be passed, being ordinary resolutions. I now invite the representatives of Greenwich Registers to provide guidance on the electronic voting process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Electronic voting instructions. An electronic device was issued to you at the point of accreditation. The device has been activated and is ready for use, even if the face is blank. Please avoid pressing any button before the voting for any resolution is announced. A resolution will be announced and voting for same will commence thereon. On the voting pad, 1 represents for, that's if you're voting for the resolution, 2 if you're voting against the resolution, and 3 if you are abstaining. Voting for a resolution starts and ends in 30 seconds. It will be displayed on the board. It will be adequately timed and displayed on the respective screens. Voting results will be displayed immediately after each voting session ends. Unit holding indicated on the results slide is in multiples of 1,000. Please do not touch any other button on the voting pad other than 1, 2, and 3, or 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mutua. And before I go on to item number 2, could you please speak up on the microphone, speak a bit louder so that the recording device can be more effective. Thank you. Item number 2. We'll now proceed to item number 2 on our agenda, which is election of directors appointed after the last annual general meeting and the re-election of directors retiring by rotation in accordance with the Articles of Association and the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. In accordance with Section 274, subsection 1, and 275, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, Mr. Jaime Aguilera and Mr. Michael Ikboki were appointed as non-executive directors and independent non-executive director, respectively, since the last general meeting to fill the casual vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Atilepite Side and to comply with the requirements of the new Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, requiring public companies to have at least 3 independent directors. Appointment of Mr. Jaime Aguilera. Pursuant to Section 274, subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, may I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that Mr. Jaime Aguilera be and is hereby elected as a director of the company. Aguilera. That is about 20 minutes monitor is Aguilera. I'm telling you now. I'm very close to that. It's the new airport, Anambra State Airport. Thank you. Can I have somebody move the motion? Mrs. Barrister Adetutu.
My name is Barrister Adetutu Shinyobola.
Thank you very much.
Move.
Will someone please rise and second the motion?
My name is Honorable Bright Mabog. I so do.
Thank you very much. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
As indicated before, the result of the vote will be declared by the... don't worry. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Okay. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. Voting has ended. On the resolution to elect Mr. Jaime Aguilera as a director, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Next is appointment of Mr. Michael Ikboki. Pursuant to Section 274, subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, may I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that Mr. Michael Ikboki be and is hereby elected as a director of the company.
I so move style. Don't get Samiat is the name.
Thank you very much. Can I have somebody second?
I second the motion, Mazi Sam Mpamugo.
Thank you very much. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting, and I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. You may please vote. Voting has ended. On the resolution to elect Mr. Michael Ikboki as the director, We have 100% votes in favor of the resolution, also represented in shareholding, because we understand that there's a request to show the shareholding, by 2,335,059,000.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the results. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried unanimously. Thank you. Distinguished shareholders, you have seen from the reports of the directors that 3 directors are retiring by rotation at this meeting. In accordance with the Articles of Association of the company and being eligible, the retiring directors offer themselves for re-election. They are Amuna Lawan Ali, OON, Mr. Felix Enwemadu, and Mrs. Adesola Shotande Peters. The first director retiring by rotation is Amuna Lawan Ali, an independent non-executive director. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that Amuna Lawan Ali, who is retiring by rotation at this annual general meeting and who, being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Can I have somebody move? The lady at the back over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mrs. Abosede Ekpiton. I so move.
Thank you. Can I have somebody second? We need to second before.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ibekwe Roberts Adenoba, I so second.
Thank you very much. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting, and I'll hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. The session has ended. On the resolution to elect Amuna Lawan Ali as a director, we have 98% votes in favor of the resolution and 2% against the resolution, represented in shareholding by 4,508,999,000 for the resolution and 88,443 against the resolution. Thank you.
I hereby declare the motion carried. The next director retiring by rotation at this annual general meeting is Mr. Felix Enwemadu, an executive director. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that Mr. Felix Enwemadu, who retires by rotation at this annual general meeting and who, being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Can I have somebody move? You just saw his picture? Oh. You recognize him, I hope?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olubosun. I read his name. I rise to move the motion.
Thank you very much. Any seconder? Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, I'm joining on in what you said, that I've just seen him too in the picture. So I rise to second the motion. My name is Patrick Ajudo.
Thank you very much. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting, and I'll hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. The session has ended. On the resolution to elect Mr. Felix Iwemadu as the director, we have 98% of the votes in favor of the resolution and 2% against the resolution, represented in shareholding by 4,503,938 units of shares for the resolution and 93,504 units of shares against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I hereby declare the motion carried. The final director retiring by rotation at this meeting is Mrs. Adesola Shotande Peters, an executive director. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that Mrs. Adesola Shotande Peters, who retires by rotation at this annual general meeting and who, being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Can I have somebody move? Somebody who hasn't moved before? Because again? No, that doesn't move motion. Don't worry. Please.
At least to support my lady in the board, I so move.
Thank you.
Barrister Adetutu Shinyombola.
Thank you. Seconded by? This is a women's affair. Oh, yeah?
I just second, sir. Udunuga Samiat is the name.
Thank you very much. And I'll put the motion to the meeting for voting, and I'll hand over to the registrars again to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. The session has ended. On the resolution to re-elect Mrs. Adeshola Shotande Peters as the director, we have 96% of the votes in favor of the resolution and 4% against the resolution, represented in shareholding by 4,435,428,000 units of shares and 162,020,000 units of shares against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried. Item number 3. The next item on the agenda, item number 3, is to disclose the remuneration of managers of Unilever Nigeria PLC. In line with the provisions of Section 257 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the remuneration of managers of Unilever Nigeria PLC for the year ended 31st December 2020 has been disclosed on pages 88 and 89, note 4, subsection 7 of the 2020 annual report and the financial statements. Item number 4. The next item on the agenda, item number 4, is to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the independent directors. I'm sorry, of independent auditors. This is being recorded. Thank you. KPMG Professional Services have acted satisfactorily as our independent auditors for the past year and are represented at this meeting by Mrs. Temitope Onitiri, partner. KPMG Professional Services have also indicated their willingness to continue as the company's independent directors. Independent auditors. I keep thinking I'm at the board at the board meeting. My apologies. Please note that under Section 401, subsection 2 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, the retiring auditors are reappointed without any resolution being passed. However, Section 408, subsection 1B of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 requires that the auditor's remuneration shall be fixed by the company in general meeting or in a manner as the company in general meeting may decide. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion: that the directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration and expenses of the auditors for the year ending 31st December 2021. Can I ask somebody to move the motion? Okay, let's start from Patrick again. We'll come around.
The chairman, I'm going to move the motion on the condition that they don't ask for any further increase.
Please,
Mrs. Onitiri, I'm saying it very clearly.
Move the motion as presented.
Yes.
Please.
So I'm going to move the motion with that condition, sir. My name is Patrick Ajudwa. I so move.
We move the motion as presented.
As presented, sir.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, you don't need to avoid that. So that they don't come back and ask for any increase.
Nona is a lawyer without wig. Seconded by
Honorable Bright Wabog. I so second.
Thank you very much. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting. I'll hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. Session has ended. On the resolution to authorize directors to fix the auditor's remuneration, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 4,597,448,000 units of shares. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 5. We'll now proceed to item number 5 on our agenda, which is the election of the shareholders' representatives on the Audit Committee in accordance with sections 238 and 404, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. The new Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 has reduced the number of directors' representatives on the Audit Committee from 3 to 2. In accordance with Section 404, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, Our audit committee comprises of 2 representatives of the directors and 3 representatives of the shareholders. It is my pleasure to inform you that the directors have appointed their own representatives who are, you are to elect today 3 validly nominated shareholders to represent you, the shareholders, for the year 2021. Please note that the voting shall be by show of hands in accordance with Section 248, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. In accordance with Section 404, subsection 6 of the Company Secretary has received valid nominations in writing 28 days before the annual general meeting from 6 shareholders, each nominating another shareholder as a member of the audit committee. The nominators, and nominees have been confirmed as shareholders of the company. Accordingly, the valid nominees now being presented to you for election are as follows. 1. Oguntoye Olusegun David. 2. Ajani Wahab Abidoye. 3. Durojaye Kolawole. 4. Uluwoni Ade David. 5. Iyola Oluwatoyin Olufumike. And 6. Oduniyi Temitope Kamoru. Having introduced the nominated shareholders and explained the election procedure to you, I'll now hand over the voting process to the registrars.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Voting will be by show of hands, and we'll take each of the names presented in the order that we have them. Shall we have
the first candidate
Mr.
for election is Mr. Oguntoye Olusegun David.
Can we now vote by the show of hands for Mr. Oguntoye? Thank you. No, there are no shareholders there. Thank you.
The second candidate is Ajani Wahab Abidoye. Oh, sorry. Did I call for any?
No. We're good to go.
You're in charge?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Ajani Wahab Abidoye.
Shall we now vote by the show of hands, please? Are you sure? Thank you. We may proceed to the next candidate.
The third candidate, Mr. Durojaye Kolawole.
Okay. Is he here?
He was here.
Okay.
He was here. I think he was in discomfort.
Okay. We can take the votes by show of hands for him. Thank you. We may proceed to the next candidate.
The
Mr.
next
Chairman.
candidate is Mr. Olowoniyi Ade David.
Okay. No votes for him? No. Okay, thank you. We may proceed.
The next candidate, is Iyola Oluwatoyin Olufumike.
Shall we take the votes? No votes? Okay, thank you. We may
And
proceed.
the last candidate is Oduniyi Temitope Kamoru.
No votes? Okay, thank you. We shall present the results now.
Distinguished shareholders, I'm pleased to announce that our returning officers have completed counting of the votes, and the results are as follows. Oguntoye Olusegun David, 12 votes. Ajani Wahab Abidoye, 12 votes. Durojaye Kolawole, 12 votes. Olowoni Ade David, 0 votes. Iyola Oluwatoyin Olufumike, 0 votes. And Oduni Temitope Kamoru, 0 votes. From the scores just announced, the following 3 shareholders have been declared elected as the shareholders' representative on the audit committee. Oguntoye Olusegun David, Ajani Wahab Abidoye, and Durojaye Kolawole. I wish to congratulate them on your behalf. The directors appointed their own 2 members on the audit committee to make up 5 members, being the maximum number required by Section 404, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. The directors' representatives are Mrs. Abiola Alabi and Mr. Chika Nwobi. I now present to you the full composition of the audit committee for the 2021 financial year, which will hold office until the next general meeting. They are Mr. Oguntoye Olusegun David, Ajani Wahab Abidoye, Durojaye Kolawole, Mr. Abiola Alabi, and Mr. Chika Nwobi. Item number 6, special business. The next item on the agenda is special business. Please be informed that as required by the Corporate Affairs Commission guidelines, the approval of the Corporate Affairs Commission was sought and obtained to conduct special business, which require ordinary resolutions at this general meeting. This concerns the remuneration of the directors, and I should mention at this stage that the non-executive directors have decided to divide any fees voted to them by the company in general meeting in accordance with Article 74 of the Articles of Association of the company. Being a beneficiary myself, I now ask Mr. Felix Emamado to conduct this part of the proceedings. Felix, please take over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item on the agenda
Felix, you have to cover up, please. Is the rule. Yes, thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item on the agenda concerns the remuneration of the non-executive directors. The directors are recommending that their remuneration remains at the same level as was approved by members last year for year ending 31st December 2020. That is 62 million naira only as directors' fees. In addition, sitting allowances will be paid at standard agreed rates for each meeting attended, and the chairman will be entitled to a vehicle allowance of 12 million gross per annum. Please note that the vehicle allowance is in lieu of a company vehicle to be replaced every 5 years, which had earlier been approved for the chairman at the previous AGM. The company is simply seeking to monetize the benefit in kind in line with global trends. The directors concerned are His Majesty Nnameka A. Achebe, the chairman, Mr. Mutiu Sumonu, Amuna Lawan Ali, Ms. Biola Alabi, Mr. Chika Nwobi, and Mr. Michael Ipoki. May I ask a shareholder to move the following motion in accordance with Article 74 of the Articles of Association of the company, the remuneration of the non-executive directors in respect of the year ending 31st December 2021 remain fixed at 62 million naira only as directors' fees. In addition, sitting allowances will be paid at standard agreed rates for each meeting attended, and the chairman will be entitled to a vehicle allowance of 12 million per annum. So, okay, please.
Thank you very much, Pro Tem Chairman. Igwe Ibekwe Robert Adenoba, I stand to move that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ibekwe. Will someone please rise?
Mr. Ibekwe, cover up, cover up. Thank you.
Will someone please rise and second the motion?
Aye. Mazi Samuel Mpamugo, I rise to second that motion.
Thank you, Mazi Samuel Mbamugo. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. May you please vote. The session has ended. We have on the resolution to fix the director's remuneration, we have 100% votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 4,582,417,000 units of shares. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously. I will now hand over to the chairman to continue with the rest of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Item number 7, special business. The next item on the agenda is special business. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following resolution. Pass the following as an ordinary resolution of the company. That pursuant to Rule 20.8 of the Rule Book of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, 2015, Issuers Rule, a general mandate be and is hereby given authorizing the company during the 2021 financial year and up to the date of the next annual general meeting to procure goods, services, and financing and enter into such incidental transactions necessary for its day-to-day operations from its related parties or interested persons on normal commercial terms consistent with the company's transfer pricing policy. All transactions falling under this category, which were earlier entered into in 2021 prior to the date of this meeting, are hereby ratified. I wish to draw your attention to the circular to the shareholders on page 132 and page 133 of the 2020 annual report and financial statements, which provides more information in respect of the related parties' transactions contemplated. Please note that, as usual, the actual transactions will be disclosed in the annual reports and financial statements for the current year. I hereby move that the following resolution be passed as an ordinary resolution of the company. That, pursuant to Rule 20.8 of the Rule Book of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, 2015, Issuers Rule, a general mandate be and is hereby given, authorizing the company during the 2021 financial year and up to the date of the next annual general meeting to procure goods, services, and financing and enter into such incidental transactions necessary for its day-to-day operations from its related parties or interested persons on normal commercial terms consistent with the company's transfer pricing policy. All transactions falling under this category, which were earlier entered into in 2021 prior to the date of this meeting, are hereby ratified. Will someone please rise and second the motion?
Mr. Chairman, sir, I, Mrs. Abosede Abiodun Piton, I so do.
Thank you. I now put the motion to the meeting for voting, and I'll hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. Voting has ended. There's something. Is someone not voting? Okay. No.
So what's the result?
Yeah, that's why they are abstaining. But if you say that means
if you put what they just showed now, it will be 4%.
okay, we can redo it again. Let's rerun it.
We
just
can
so
take
that
it.
we can do it. So no voting by Unilever first.
It's not just abstaining. Because the way the programs are.
Okay. Shall we take this again? Are you ready? Okay. Voting. We'll take the resolution again, and voting starts now.
don't vote. The shareholder.
The session has ended. On the resolution to approve a general mandate authorizing the company during the 2021 financial year and up to date of the next AGM to procure goods and services necessary for its day-to-day operations from its related parties or interested persons on normal commercial terms, consistent with the company's transfer pricing policy. We have 78% of the eligible votes in favor of the resolution and 22% against the resolution, represented in shareholding by 163,377,000 units of shares in favor of the resolution and 45,133,000 units of shares against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I declare the motion carried. Item number 8, special business. The last item on the agenda is special business. To consider and, if thought fit, pass the following subjoined resolutions as an ordinary resolution of the company. 1, that the proposed separation of the company's tea business, the tea business, and all assets attached to or deployed in connection with the tea business, as will be more particularly described in the relevant transaction documents, to a newly incorporated, dedicated tea company in Nigeria, in the Unilever Group, the separation, on such terms and conditions as may be agreed by the board of directors of the company. The board is hereby approved, subject to obtaining relevant regulatory approvals. 2, that the board is hereby authorized to execute all relevant documents, appoint such professional advisors, and take all necessary steps, and to do such other acts or things as may be necessary, supplementary, consequential, or incidental to giving effect to or supporting the separation, including obtaining relevant regulatory approvals and complying with the directives of any regulatory authorities. And 3, that all acts carried out by the board and management of the company hitherto in connection with the above be and are hereby ratified. I wish to draw your attention to the explanatory note to shareholders on the separation of Unilever Nigeria PLC tea business on pages 134 and 135 of the 2020 annual report and financial statements, which provide more information in respect of the proposed tea separation. The board had carefully reviewed the proposed separation and concluded that same is in the interest of all shareholders of Unilever Nigeria PLC. The board took particular steps to ensure that the interests of minority shareholders are fully protected. Earlier on, Mr. Sumonu, who headed the board of the board's committee, which reviewed the details of the proposed transaction, to quickly share. Well, he has shared the process, which was followed. He gave a clear explanation of the process that the board committee and the board followed. Please note that full details of the actual tea separation will be disclosed in the annual report and financial statements for the current year. I hereby move that the following subjoined resolutions be passed as an ordinary resolution of the company. One, that the proposed separation of the company's tea business, the tea business, and all assets attached to or deployed in connection with the tea business, as will be more particularly described in the relevant transaction documents, to a newly incorporated dedicated tea company in Nigeria, in the Unilever Group, the separation, on such terms and conditions as may be agreed by the board of directors of the company. The board is hereby approved, subject to obtaining relevant regulatory approvals. Two, that the board is hereby authorized to execute all relevant documents, appoint such professional advisors, take all necessary steps, and to do such other acts or things as may be necessary, supplementary, consequential, or incidental to giving effect or supporting the separation, including obtaining the relevant regulatory approvals and complying with the directives of any regulatory authorities. And three, that all acts carried out by the board and management of the company hitherto in connection with the above be and I are hereby ratified. Will somebody please rise and move? Somebody please rise and second the motion, please.
Thank you, Chairman, for the second opportunity. I just want a quick clarification. Will the separation of the tea business be requiring that we hold another meeting to give approval after it will have been obvious as to what the total implication would look like for us to give approval, or this is going to be the final approval? And the reason I ask this is that if there's going to be any order from the regulator that a second layer of approval is needed, I'll be asking that we should make Unilever overseas know that that cost will be borne by them, not by not Unilever Nigeria. That is, so I don't need to come back the third time. That's why I'm putting this leg of it. If there is going to be a regulatory approval after this, then they must bear the cost. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can you respond to that?
So this approval is the final one from shareholders because it's authorizing the board to conclude the transaction. Any regulatory, your point around any regulatory cost, approval cost that we bear should be borne by Unilever is noted and will be communicated accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you then second the motion? Thank you, Donna. And I put the motion to the meeting for voting, and I'll hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're ready to vote. Voting starts now. The session has ended. On the resolution to pass the subjoined resolutions authorizing the directors to separate the company's tea business to a newly incorporated dedicated tea company in Nigeria in the Unilever Group as part of Unilever Global separation transaction, We have 77% of the votes in favor of the resolution and 23% of the votes against the resolution, represented in shareholding. No, the Unilever didn't vote. You can see. We have 149,819,000 units of shares in favor of the resolution and 45,133,000 units of shares against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, we have now completed the formal business of the annual general meeting, and I'd like to thank you all on behalf of the board and management for demonstrating your continued interest in and support of the company's affairs by attending this meeting and holding proxies for all those who couldn't attend. The COVID-19 pandemic remains a threat, especially taking a cue from some countries which are recently experiencing renewed surge. I therefore urge you to continue to practice social distancing and other advised safety measures in order to keep safe. Please also keep preaching to others, your family, your friends, or just ordinary people to do the same. Spread the word all the time. I wish you a safe journey back to your various destinations, and I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please rise for the national anthem. Please, could the board members wait behind for press and for picture taking? Thank you. Please, could the board wait behind for pictures and the press? Thank you.